made it to the postseason, ladies and gentlemen. We have for sure made it. Week 18, the regular season is upon us, and now we are here ready to rock and roll for the NFL playoffs. We have made it. Wild card weekend is upon us. We have six games, 3 AFC, 3 NFC, and we are ready to rock and roll. Playoffs are set. I'm excited. I know you guys are excited, but we got to recap this week 18 and see how we got there. We're going to recap the matchups that we covered for week 18. We're also going to preview and predict all the matchups for the NFL playoffs because, yes, we here at Pigskin Frenzy are covering those ball games. We're also talking about the coaching changes going on in the National Football League. You're not going to want to miss it because news galore is upon us when it comes to the coaching changes. Yes, there's a new camera angle. We got a brand new system here for Pigskin Frenzy, brand new look for Pigskin Frenzy. That's why I'm up close. We have a new camera mount. We have a new way to look. It's not like it was on Tuesday. It's a lot better, but guess what? We got a new system, new mic stand, new everything. You're going to get more personal with me here on Pigskin Frenzy. Welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful chilly Thursday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris, and whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, listening on Podbean, or listening on Apple, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some NFL coverage presented by me. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, all you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. Guys, X, Instagram, all you got to do is type in pigskin_frenzy. Follow, like the page is there. You're going to get episode updates. Going to get news and highlights from across college and NFL football. You're going to get trivia questions on Instagram story. Go and answer today's NFL question as well as all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. There you will find all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. You will find Home About Me page. Learn more about me as your podcast host. You're going to find contact info. You can name, email, question. I'll answer it on air or off air if need be. You're going to find out also about the platforms page. All the platforms I just mentioned, go and listen to the platforms or look at the platforms page. Click on which one's your favorite listening style of the show, as well as store and affiliations page for Pigskin Frenzy. More on that coming soon. Guys, we're ready to rock and roll with Pigskin Frenzy today, NFL Day today. Big thank you. 4,400 listeners. 4,400 all-time downloads and listeners for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, a big thank you for taking in your time and just devoting your time to Pigskin Frenzy every Tuesday and Thursday. We love you all. We're praying for you all, and the Lord is good. We could not have done anything without Jesus because, the Lord, He is good and the Lord is good. So praise Jesus for this show and praise Him for, everything, for everything we have accomplished with Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, we are going to dedicate this episode also to the people in Los Angeles going through horrible tragedy with wildfires going on in the Los Angeles area, multiple cities in Los Angeles, and the whole metropolis area of Los Angeles is just being devastated by these wildfires and families, homes lost, and we are going to pray and keep the families and people in LA in our thoughts and prayers. We are praying for those people, and we hope that everything gets right back on track with Los Angeles. We are praying for them. We are with them, and everything is okay. And hopefully we are thinking about them, and hopefully everything goes good. The Lord is with them, and we are praying for them. We stand with the people of LA, and we are thinking about them as well. This episode was dedicated to them and everything going on down there. So NFL Day today, we're getting ready to rock and roll with the recap. We are here in the playoffs. We have made it. It has been, honestly, once you think about it, it has been absolutely crazy that the NFL season is pretty much in the rear view. We're in the playoffs now. Can you believe that? We're in the playoffs, and I am ready to rock and roll my second ever NFL playoff coverage. I'm ready to rock and roll here on Pigskin Frenzy. I cannot wait to deliver these picks because I have been thinking about these picks, and I cannot wait to just talk about these games and cover these games this weekend. We have a loaded slate of games we're covering when it comes to college football and NFL. So we're going to be busy bees here from today, and not only today through Monday. So we're going to be busy bees here at Pigskin Frenzy, and we're pretty busy regardless with this show and everything. So let's get right down to it. NFL Week 18 recap, and let's recap all these games that have happened. Kicking it off on Saturday night, Bengals at Steelers. Bengals at Steelers. Getting ready to rock and roll with this one. Quite honestly, an interesting ball game, to say the least. Bengals at Steelers. If the Bengals would have lost, they would have been out. They would have won. There was a shot that they were going to make the NFL playoff, or the AFC playoffs rather, but nonetheless, NFL playoffs. I went 3-1 in my Week 18 NFL picks. Final score of this game was 19-17 Bengals. Bengals found a way to win it. Bengals 19, Steelers 17. Final score, I thought the Bengals were going to win. I was right about this game, and they finished their season 9-8. Let's talk about the Bengals in this game, then we'll talk about the Steelers. The Steelers are already in. So the Steelers are already in. But this game for the Steelers was kind of a wake-up call for them in, the playoffs, right? This was a wake-up call for them to, okay, hey, we're in the playoffs, and we can't play like this in the playoffs, or we're going to get beat round one this weekend, right? So this was a wake-up call for them. Let's go over these notes and these stats. Joe Burrow, 237 yards, a touchdown, 37 for 46. Khalil Herbert, 69 yards, 20 carries. Jamar Chase, 96 yards, a touchdown. Mike Gesicki, 68 yards, 8 receptions. T. Higgins, 53 yards, 4 receptions. They need to re-sign T. Higgins. I've already said that, though. Davis Gaither, 12 total tackles. Newton, he had 7 total tackles. Trey Hendrickson had 3.5 sacks on Russell Wilson in this ball game. 3.5 sacks. He averaged 5 total tackles on top of that as well. It has been, honestly, if you want to look at Trey Hendrickson, he is the sack leader in the NFL, and he has had a wonderful season for this team. Now, excuse me, as we get over to these notes and the team stats. Defensively, they look good. If you want to look at everything going on, the only thing, because the Bengals beat them on paper and everything, the only thing they didn't beat them on was rushing yards. And Steelers didn't beat them by much because they couldn't run the ball a lot, any better either. But 314 total yards compared to the Steelers, 193. Passing, 246. Passing compared to the Steelers, 119. Rushing yards, Steelers won that one. 74 yards compared to the Bengals, 68. So very close there. 4.4 yards per play compared to the Steelers, 3.3 yards per play. 5 for 13 on third down. And those are some of the positive moments for them. That's pretty much it. Some of the positive moments for this Bengals team. Now, did they have some moments where they kind of let their foot off the gas in some areas? Yeah. I think that they could have capitalized on touchdowns a lot better, and they could have capitalized on touchdowns earlier in the game, and this game could have been 27-7 going into halftime. I'm not joking. Like, the Bengals could have been up 27-7 at half if it wasn't for a lot of the plays they have done in this ball game, right? So if you look at everything there and you look at you look at what happened in this ball game, the Bengals were the better team in this game. They just kind of let their foot off the gas in a lot of ways. The Steelers were on their way back. They ended up getting sacked some more, and then they ended up kind of the play calling was kind of kind of meh, like kind of hearsay, right? So the negative circle moments for this Bengals team was letting their foot off the gas, not capitalizing when they needed to. They could have scored touchdowns, but they turned it into 3 instead. 2 turnovers were crucial in this game, a fumble and an interception. 2 turnovers, and then 6 penalties, 25 yards. Not too bad, but 6 penalties is quite a lot. But and running the football. Other than that, running the football and then the sacks. Other than those few things, the Bengals played okay. Not good enough to, I would say, win the whole thing, but they played well enough to win this ball game. 4 sacks allowed on Joe Burrow. They got to him 4 times. That's crucial, and it's been a key thing for the Bengals ever since. The defense finally showed some life. They showed that they were ready to play, and they wanted to play this ball game. Was it enough in the end? No. Overall, for the season, it wasn't enough, but the Bengals did good enough to win this ball game. 19-17 was the final score. The Bengals finished 9-8 on their season, and now they move on to the offseason. The Steelers, let's talk about them before we move on. The Bengals finished their season at 9-8. Steelers, before we, you know what? Let me just touch on this. Spoiler alert. Bengals didn't make the playoffs, obviously. Broncos did win their game. We're going to talk about that one here in a little bit. But the Bengals, with this team, and this offense was loaded, should have made the playoffs. I was going to say this after the Broncos game. But let's say this. The Bengals should have made the playoffs with the talent they had. They had a loaded wide receiver, best wide receiver, Triple Crown wide receiver, the passing champion in Joe Burrow, who had a historically great season and probably could have won MVP. They had that. They had the Triple Crown. They had a loaded receiver in T. Higgins. They had one of the best offenses in the AFC and NFL. Statistically, passing offense. They had the best passing offense in the National Football League. And guess what happened? They missed the playoffs. This was on defense. This was on coaching. And those two things need to get corrected. If Zach Taylor doesn't turn things around next season, I am looking for a new head coach. Hands down. There's no sense in them missing the playoffs. No sense in it. That's my take on that. Let's go with the Steelers before we talk about the Broncos and Chiefs game. So, Steelers look kind of dull in this game. Kind of look stale on offense in this game. They looked okay. They got some points. They got a touchdown or two, but they just kind of look stale overall in the game. Russell Wilson, 17 for 31, 148 yards, a touchdown. Najee Harris, 36 yards, 12 carries, and a touchdown. Jalen Warren had 21 yards, 6 carries. And then Pat Freiermuth, a touchdown, 85 yards, 8 receptions. Mike Williams had a 25-yard reception. Najee Harris had 20 yards, 4 receptions. George Pickens did not catch a single pass in this ball game. George Pickens had probably the worst game of his career. And Van Jefferson, 18 yards, 3 receptions. George Pickens and the receivers were not catching a lot, and they weren't connecting with Russell Wilson on this offense. They couldn't run the ball very well either. So it was kind of hard to win this ball game, honestly. Chris Broswell has been a force to be reckoned with in special teams. He has nailed field goals, and he has helped them out a lot. But the offense in general needs to have some life for Saturday, or it's not going to be close, and they're going to lose Saturday afternoon, or Saturday night, on Prime against the Ravens. They're in Baltimore Saturday night, wild card matchup. AFC North champions, the Ravens, they're going up against who was previously the leader in the AFC North, which was the Steelers, and they're going to Baltimore in an AFC North wild card matchup Saturday night on Amazon Prime. If you have a subscription, tune in. We're covering it, and they are going to go play them. And the whole problem right now with that is Steelers' offense are kind of lacking, while the Ravens' offense on the ground, especially, has life. They have life. So it's kind of scary. If you want to look at it, it's kind of scary. Let's look at the stats on paper. 4 for 12 on third down. So I'm going to go straight to the negatives really quick before we get to some of the positives. 4 for 12 on third down. They need to do better on third down and keep drives going. They're 0 for 2 on fourth down. 4 sacks allowed. Russell Wilson got sacked 4 times. And then they had a crucial turnover, a fumble. 3.3 yards per play is not where you want to be heading into a matchup with the Baltimore Ravens. 3.3 yards per play. That's rough. 3.3 yards per play. You cannot average that in a matchup with the number 1 rushing team and the number 1 rushing defense. You got to figure out a way to get the ball going and move and capitalize on drives in games like this. If you don't, then what's going to happen? You know what I mean? We already know what's going to happen. It's a hypothetical question, obviously, but we already know what's going to happen. It's not going to be a good day for you in the office. So they got to get those things cleaned up. They got to get receivers catching footballs. George Pickens, that was one of the worst performances I've ever seen. You got to be blunt. You have to be blunt when you're doing this, and it was rough. But I believe in George Pickens. I believe he can rebound. He's a good enough receiver. He just had a bad game. But he's got to get going, and he has to get going Saturday. This game was a wake-up call for them to get ready and prepared for this game, this playoff game Saturday night. So no more resting starters. You're playing, right? No more resting the starters. You're playing in this game, and you're getting ready to rock and roll here. So those are the negatives. The positives is that they didn't let up. I admire that about Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. They did not let up. when they were getting beat by the Bengals Saturday, they kept fighting and they kept punching. And I think it can come a long way in a football game, and that can come a long way for your team. And I admire the Steelers' fight. I think the Steelers can fight Saturday. They fight and show fight Saturday while also completing drives and capitalizing on their possessions. Then maybe this game can go another direction. Who knows? But I think that when you look at this, going ahead into this game Saturday night against the Ravens, the Steelers got to have one fight, and they have to capitalize on their offensive possessions. Because if they don't, then it's hoopla, right? It's all hoopla. It's all hearsay at this point, and the Steelers are going to be eliminated from the playoffs early. Defense played well, but they need to play lights out Saturday, and I think this game showed that. 19-17, Bengals defeat the Steelers. The Steelers have a playoff game Saturday night, wild card. Steelers at Ravens, Saturday night, 8 Eastern, 7 Central on Amazon Prime. If you have a subscription on Amazon Prime, go and watch it. Go and watch it. If you're subscribed to Amazon Prime, tune in live. Wild card weekend playoff game on Amazon Prime. If you do not have it, better subscribe to Amazon Prime because this game will be electric in the AFC. 19-17, Bengals defeat the Steelers. Let's talk about the other game that got them into the playoffs, the Broncos and the Chiefs. Broncos and Chiefs. I said that the Broncos were going to win this game. Bengals were going to lose or going to be out of the playoffs only because the Chiefs were resting all their starters. Point blank. They were resting all their starters. I think the Chiefs' backups are okay, but not better than the Broncos' starters right now. The Broncos were motivated. Final score of this game, 38-0. Broncos defeat the Chiefs. The Chiefs go to 15-2. Broncos go to 10-7. Chiefs are on a bye because they are the number 1 seed, and the Broncos are the 7th and last seed in the AFC playoffs. They clinched a spot. Broncos 38, Chiefs 0. Broncos went off on the Chiefs. They were motivated in this ball game to get in. Sean Payton in his second season as head coach of the Broncos. AFC West finds a way to get in along with the Chargers and the Chiefs. So good job on both Harbaugh and Sean Payton. Harbaugh his first year with Chargers, second year for Sean Payton for the Broncos. They find a way to get in. Bo Nix played like a madman in this game because Bo Nix needs to play like a madman if they want to try to figure out a way to upset this Buffalo Bills team Sunday at 1 Eastern, noon Central. 4 touchdowns, 321 yards, 26 for 29 in this ball game. Bo Nix was. He was absolutely insane in this ball game. He played lights out. Bo Nix also had 47 yards rushing and 7 carries. He averaged 6.7 yards per rush on the ground. That's a quarterback. That's insane. That's first down and 2nd and 4, then another first down. Jaleel McLaughlin, he had 39 yards, 16 carries. Audric Estime, 34 yards, 12 carries, and a touchdown. Let me see. Javonte Williams, 28 yards, 5 carries. They played lights out in this ball game. Cortland Sutton, 1 touchdown, 98 yards, 5 receptions, and 19.6 yards per reception. Marvin Mims Jr., 51 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 receptions, 10.2 yards receptions. And Devon Valet, 50 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 receptions. Javonte Williams had 50 yards, 3 receptions. LaJordan Humphrey had 26 yards, 2 receptions. Atkins, 25 yards, 3 receptions. This defense also got to Carson Wentz. And they did that because they are the number 1 sack team in the NFL. If you want to look at the notes, they got to the Carson Wentz 5 times. 5 times. Even when Mahomes is in there, I worry about this Chiefs offensive line. That's the number 1 red flag that I have with this Kansas City Chiefs offense, and that is the offensive line in their games. 5 sacks. The Broncos got to him 5 times. So 5 sacks for the Broncos, the number 1 sack team. Very good positive note. On paper, dominant. 479 total yards compared to the Chiefs, 98. 321 passing yards compared to the Chiefs, 71. 158 rushing yards compared to the Chiefs, 27 rushing yards. 6.7 yards per play compared to their 3.0 rushing yards per play. Third down efficiency, 10 for 14, 100% on 4th down. 2 for 2 on 4th down, no sacks allowed, and no turnovers. 41 minutes compared to the Chiefs, 18 minutes of time of possession. Domination to a T. The Broncos do not have the backups like most. So the Broncos do. No, I'm sorry, the Chiefs don't have the backups like most. Not Broncos, Chiefs. The Chiefs have depth. I'm not saying that, but this was kind of a warm-up game. I didn't really think the Chiefs were trying. Now, if you look at New Heights on their podcast with Travis Kelce, he says they're not going to shy away from anybody. I get that. I get that. But the thing was, you were resting that game. Travis Kelce was in Mahomes and all them. They were resting that game. This game would have been completely different if the starters were in. So if they somehow rematch, if the Broncos beat the Bills, they would play the Chiefs. If they rematched, this game would probably be a lot closer or go in a different direction. Why? Because the starters are in there. I think that the depth of the Chiefs is not that big of a concern, but it can be a concern when it comes to playing, being like backups, right? I think that this game was totally dominant. They weren't even trying out there. The backups were just kind of into the depth. It's good. They just weren't trying out there. This was a warm-up game for them. They're already the number 1 seed. They're resting a lot of their guys, and they're playing guys that are just warming up for the playoffs. And now not only does the starters get an extra week of rest, they also, the backups, get a week of rest as well before, not this week, but next weekend's divisional matchup in the playoffs. So, look, the Broncos were going to win this ball game. I already knew because of that reason. It's a no-brainer. They're not going to try, and I had a feeling they weren't going to try. Why would you? You're warming up and trying to preserve as much rest for a three-peat Super Bowl title run that's never been done before. You're trying to preserve all your energy for that and that playoff game. And that's it makes sense. I mean, why would you play a game that at the end of the day in your spot doesn't really mean anything to you? For the Broncos, it means something because they're going to get into the playoffs. They're fighting for a playoff spot. They're going to start all their guys. But for you, it doesn't mean a lot because you've already clinched the number 1 seed. You've already clinched the AFC West for a 500th straight time. I'm being dramatic. And you're competing for a shot at the three-peat. A feat that's not been done before in the NFL. Not even with the New England Patriots. So, yes. I mean, it's obvious that you're going to want to try a little bit less in this ball game and preserve all your energy and time into the divisional round. The 15-2 to me, that don't matter. Man, we could have had a one-loss regular season. That don't matter to me. I've already got the number 1 seed. I'm fighting for a three-peat. So, really, there's nothing else to say about the Broncos or the Chiefs. I've already really kind of talked about the Chiefs and the Broncos in this all-in-one setting when I was talking about the Broncos. That's it, literally. There's nothing to say about the Chiefs. They rested all their starters. They're ready to rock and roll for the playoff game. And the Broncos, they have a shot at pulling off an upset in Orchard Park against the number 2 seed in the playoffs in the Buffalo Bills Sunday afternoon. Sunday, noon Eastern, 11 Central. They have a shot. And they're going to go into Orchard Park and give it all they got. So the Bills have to come to play this ball game because Bo Nix and Sean Payton and the Broncos are not laying down. Especially that defense, the number 1 sack team in the league. They are not laying down. So you're going to have to figure out a way to fight in this ball game if you're Buffalo. Final score is 38-0. Nothing to really talk about the Chiefs. I really did not expect this to be a game. I thought this was going to be, I thought it was going to be a little bit, the Chiefs were going to score, and it may have been a little bit closer, but I had the Broncos winning this game. I thought it was going to be like 24-21. I thought it was going to be close maybe, but there was part of me was thinking this could not be a game either. So I don't know. I wasn't really all that shocked that it went this way. They're resting all their starters. They're getting ready for the playoffs. 38-0 was the final score. Broncos defeat the Chiefs. Let's move on and talk about the Seahawks and Rams because that game was close. The Rams were resting a lot of their starters as well, including Matthew Stafford. Jimmy Garoppolo started for this team. 30-25. This was the only game I got wrong. 30-25, the final score, Seahawks 30, Rams 25, and the Seahawks win their final game of the season. They finish their season 10-7 and do not make the NFC playoffs. I don't know, man. I think if you win 10 or more games, you should get in. But I know how the rules work. It's different rules, right? 10-7, final score. Rams are 10-7. The Rams are the NFC West champions already. Seahawks are already eliminated from playoff contention, so they weren't playing for really anything. They were really playing for the pride aspect at this point. And the Seahawks ended their season on a good note. Geno Smith had 4 touchdowns in this ball game. Geno Smith had 4 touchdowns. 4 touchdowns, 223 yards, 20 for 27 in this game. Zach Charbonnet, 59 yards, 4 carries. McIntosh, 49 yards, 7 carries. Noah Fant, 63 yards, a touchdown, 5 receptions. DK Metcalf, a touchdown, 53 yards, 3 receptions. AJ Barner had 34 yards, a touchdown, 5 receptions. And Bobo had a 4-yard touchdown reception. This team looked good. The defense looked good. Knight had 10 total tackles and a half a sack. Witherspoon had 8 total tackles. Julian Love had an interception and 6 total tackles in this game. The Seahawks defense looked really, really well. They came to play in their last game, and they really wanted it. They really wanted it in L.A. The Rams were resting a lot of their guys ahead of the Monday Night Football matchup with the Minnesota Vikings, and they were just getting ready for this NFC playoff matchup coming up on Super Wildcard Weekend, right? So I understand the Rams resting a lot of their guys. I picked the Rams because I thought their depth was just a tiny bit better than the Seahawks, but I was wrong in this game, and they lost, but it was close. 403 total yards for the Rams compared to the Seahawks 336. You also had passing yards 319 compared to the Seahawks 210. But other than that, I mean, pretty even. I mean, 6.3 yards per play compared to the Rams 6.2 yards per play by a little bit of a yard, I guess, or a little bit of a point of a yard, I guess. 126 rushing yards compared to their 84 rushing yards. 6 for 11 on third down, and they only allowed 2 sacks, and they protected the ball, barely any penalties, and they played with some fire on their last game of the season. The Seahawks are pretty disappointed that they did not make the postseason, but this is something they can build on for next season. Mike McDonald's first season as Seahawks head coach, and he gets them to 10-7. Not bad. Geno didn't have a bad year at all. They just got to build a little bit more, especially a little bit on defense, especially in the linebacker spot and up at the defensive front. I think they build on that, and they just, put some more effort in on that side of the ball, then the Seahawks will be fine. I honestly think so. I think those were some of the problems that they were dealing with. First season, it's going to be fine, and they have a shot, if they wanted to win the NFC West next year and make it to the postseason next year. So 10-7, not a bad finish to your year, but still disappointing because you didn't make the playoffs. It was a winning season record-wise, but to me, a winning season would be making the postseason, and they didn't really make the postseason, obviously. So, it's one of those better luck next year moments. So, but they played their hearts out in this ball game, and congratulations on finishing 10-7 and having somewhat of a good year finishing on a good note. If you're the Seahawks, let's talk about the Rams before we move on to the Lions-Vikings game, and then we'll go to the coaching changes, and then we will go injury report, and then preview and predict the top matchups and all the playoff games for this weekend. The Rams in this game was resting all their starters. Jimmy G looked good as a backup. Really nothing to discuss other than that they rested all their guys. Running the ball has to get better for this playoff game. I think that it's just a must. Like, they are a great passing team with Matthew Stafford in there. Even with Jimmy G in there, they passed the ball well, 319. But they have to run the ball a lot better. Rivers, 48 yards, 12 carries. Excuse me. 48 yards, 12 carries. Jordan Whittington had 12 yards, 2 carries. Jimmy Garoppolo, 334 yards, 2 touchdowns, 27 for 41. Whittington, 86 yards, 3 receptions. Demarcus Robinson, 72 yards, 3 receptions. Higbee had a touchdown, 46 yards, 5 receptions. Atwell, 37 yards, 5 receptions. Johnson had a touchdown, 35 yards, and 5 receptions. And they got to Geno. 2 sacks. But the defense got to Garoppolo. 3 sacks allowed in this ball game. 3 sacks allowed. They got to Garoppolo. They got to protect Stafford in this weekend as well. I think the line has been kind of a struggle in some ways. They've been getting to Stafford a lot this year. I think they got they got to Garoppolo 3 times. They got to protect him coming against this Vikings defensive front. They really do. Protect the ball. 5 efficient on 3rd down. They won on 3rd down, 5 for 14. They did really good on 3rd down. But the sacks are a concern. I would say running the ball is a concern for the Rams. Other than that, the Rams are a dangerous team. They're a team that I would not look past in the playoffs, and I would, not look at the Vikings and say, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Dan Campbell did that out of a sign of respect to the Vikings and said, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. I think Sean McVay and Stafford and a lot of those guys are going to hear that, and they're thinking, so they're just going to write us off. You do not write out the Los Angeles Rams. This is a battle-tested team. This is a team that has the home field advantage, maybe due to the wildfires, but Arizona will be in play as a emergency venue. State Farm Stadium in Glendale will be the backup option if they don't play in SoFi Monday. That's a newsbreaker there. But right now, home field advantage for the Rams in this. So they're a battle tested team. Do not count the Rams out. That is my only thing. If you are if you're playing the Rams, just do not count them out. You take them serious and you fight. You fight against this Rams team. Final score was 30-25. Seahawks defeat the Rams. Rams had the Vikings on Monday Night Football. They have them, 8 Eastern, 7 Central on ESPN and ABC on Monday Night Football. Playoff game edition, Monday Night Football, NFL wildcard round in the NFC. Vikings at Rams in the playoffs. So, last but not least, speaking of the Vikings and the Lions, we covered that game on Sunday Night Football, the battle for the North. Vikings at Lions. This game was a doozy. At first, I picked the Lions to win this game, and I was right. Ended it on a good note. 3-1 in my NFL Week 18 picks. It was a close game at first, and then in the fourth quarter, late third, early fourth, they ran away with it. Final score, Lions 31, Vikings 9. Lions 31, Vikings 9. The first game was closer. In Ford Field, this game was not close at the very end. The Lions just ran away with it. It was the Jahmyr Gibbs show the whole time. Jared Goff played good too, don't get me wrong. He usually plays good. He's a top quarterback in this league. But this was the Jahmyr Gibbs show. Jared Goff had 231 yards, a touchdown. He had 2 interceptions, so he's got to clean that up. 27 for 33. Jahmyr Gibbs, 139 yards, 3 touchdowns, 23 carries. He averaged 6 yards per rush. Amazing. He also had 31 yards, 5 receptions, and a touchdown. He averaged 6.2 yards per reception. Jahmyr Gibbs was all over the field against this Vikings defense this past Sunday night. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 77 yards, 6 receptions. Sam Laporta, 63 yards, 7 receptions. Jameson Williams, 34 yards, 6 receptions. Tim Patrick, 15 yards, 2 receptions. Defense played well. Onlazone, welcome back. He had 7 total tackles. They brought him back from arm surgery. He played in this ball game. Amik Robertson, 5 total tackles. Kirby Joseph, 6 total tackles. Brian Branch, 6 total tackles. Zadarius Smith had a sack and 3 total tackles. Jack Campbell played well as well with 6 total tackles. This Lions defense was solid. They're bringing guys back. News out of the running back room. David Montgomery, his knee injury was not as serious as originally thought, and he should be back by the divisional round. The Lions have a bye next week, or this coming up this weekend, and then next weekend, David Montgomery should be back and ready to play in the playoffs. So they're going to get Sonic and Knuckles back in full force next week. So they're bringing guys back. The Lions team that was so dangerous, even though they're dangerous with the injuries, they're bringing guys back healthy, and they're going to be even more dangerous again now that guys are coming back. So get ready. That's all I got to say. If your team's facing the Detroit Lions, get ready. 15-2, the Lions win 31-9. They win the NFC North back-to-back, and they clinch the number one seed for the first time in franchise and organization history. So 394 total yards compared to the Vikings 262, passing 216 compared to the Vikings 142, rushing 178 compared to the Vikings 120, and 6 yards per play compared to their 4.2 yards per play. They dominated on paper, 5 for 12 third downs. They look good in that regard. They only 2 for 4 on fourth down efficiency. They only allow 2 sacks. That's the negative circle moment. And then the 2 interceptions thrown was a negative circle moment. 8 penalties for 49 yards, another negative circle moment. Those are the only blemishes that I would clean up by week, by round, by divisional round. And next week, not this week, but next week, I would clean that up if I'm Detroit. But I'm going to be real when I tell you this. I think that, I think that the Vikings are a good opponent, a very good opponent, and the Lions destroyed them because I think they're the best team right now in the NFL. Even though they lost to the Bucs earlier and the Bills earlier, the Bills are a good team. Josh Allen played lights out. The Lions, at their best and at a complete moment, the Lions are the best team in the NFL, and they're playing like it. They're playing like it when they're getting beat up, and they're playing like it when they're healthy. They're scary, and they got depth, and they have added depth. They have worked hard for this, and they are the best team in the field right now. They get a home playoff game coming up next week. Let's see what they do. Jahmyr Gibbs was in full effect in this game. They're going to bring David Montgomery back. I am so curious to see what the field's going to look like. Whoever they play, whether it's the Bucs or whether it's the Commanders, or whether it's the Vikings, right? I'm curious to see what the stadium's going to look like and what the atmosphere is going to be in that in Detroit, in that Ford Field, in that Lions or stadium, Ford Field in Detroit, with a lot of people in there. I cannot wait to see what they're going to look like for another playoff game. I'm so curious about that. They got to get some stuff cleaned up, but I believe that Dan Campbell will focus on that during the bye week. A lot of things going on with their staff. Ben Johnson's getting coaching interviews, so is Aaron Glenn. So hopefully by next week everything's going to be focused on that playoff game. 31-9 was the final score. They're the NFC North champions again, and they are the number one seed in the NFC playoffs. The field is set. Let's talk about the Vikings really quick before we move on to the coaching changes and injury report and preview and predict these NFL wild card playoff games. The Vikings were keeping it close, but here's what I'm going to tell you what cost them in a little bit. Let's go to the players and some of their guys. 166 yards, 18 for 41 for Sam Darnold. Not his best day, but he tried. 65 yards, 6 carries for Cam Akers. Aaron Jones, 10 carries, 45 yards. Justin Jefferson, 54 yards, 3 receptions. Jalen Naylor, 53 yards, 3 receptions. Aaron Jones, 30 yards, 5 receptions. TJ Hawkinson, 9 yards, 2 receptions. They didn't throw to Jordan Addison as much. Defensively, 2 turnovers. I mean, Ivan Pace Jr., 10 total tackles and interception. Cameron Bynum, 7 total tackles. Cashman had 8 total tackles. Byron Murphy Jr., 7 total tackles. Andrew Van Ginkel, 7 total tackles. Greenard had 5 total tackles. Harrison Smith had an interception and 4 total tackles. This defense played lights out and physical against this team at first. And then in the fourth quarter, they kind of just got blown out. In the fourth quarter, they kind of just took their foot off the gas. The Vikings just kind of thrown the white flag on defense. They kind of got gassed a little bit. And then Jahmyr Gibbs and this Lions offense just took full effect in the fourth quarter. And that's what happened. It was a runaway fourth quarter game for the Lions. I think they could have made it a lot closer, and I'm going to tell you why here in a little bit. By the way, 2 sacks allowed, 3 for 13 on third down efficiency for the Vikings. Some positive circle. Let me just break this down. I'm just getting ahead of myself. Let me just crash out. The positive circle moments were this. They kept it close and kept it physical in the first half and in the third quarter. Fourth quarter, they let their foot off the gas pedal. They kept it close in that regard. They had good. They drove down the field with ease on a lot of drives. So if they do that in the playoffs, they're going to probably win some ball. They're probably going to beat the Rams Monday if they can do that. I think that they played well in some regards, and when it comes to toughness, physicality, they played good on defense, and they were very physical on defense. They showed some heart up until the fourth quarter. I think those are some good areas for the Vikings, right? So let's get to the negative circle moments. 3 for 13 on third down. Not good. You can't capitalize, and capitalization played a big part in this game too. 3 for 13 on third down. They need to win better on third down and keep drives going. 0 for 3 on fourth down efficiency. Majority of those, and pretty much all of those, came on goal line stances. They went for it 3 times, and then they failed on all fourth down and goals. 6 penalties, 30 yards. They protected the ball good, and they got 2 sacks on Sam Darnold. The offensive line, all of that could be cleaned up. I think decision-making was the reason why they lost this ball game. And defensively being on the field for a long time, 36 minutes compared to the Vikings' 23 minutes in time of possession. That's the Lions outgained them in time of possession. Played a part in why the Vikings defense kind of crashed out in the fourth quarter, and it was a 31-9 game. If they would have taken the points, the outlook of the game could have been different. I think decision-making was a huge part in this loss Sunday night. They went for it and were a little bit too aggressive. If you're Kevin O'Connell and this head coach and this coaching staff, you were a little bit too aggressive. And I think it's a good thing to go for it. Don't get me wrong. But to go for it almost every single time you're in the goal line, you have them close in a game, you can take the points and even take the lead in certain circumstances, and you didn't do it. You didn't do it. You need to do that. Take the lead. And you didn't do it. You went for it, and it failed. And it cost you. I think decision-making was a huge result and outcome in this ball game. And then the defense was on the field for a long time. They crashed out, and the Lions won. That's pretty much how you do it. Lions have a bye. So we're going to see who they play this weekend. The Vikings have a huge game Monday night. They're the 5th seed. Rams are the 4th. And they have a huge game Monday night on Monday Night Football, 8 Eastern, 7 Central on ESPN. Vikings at Rams, and it's going to be a regular season rematch. And isn't it kind of funny how we're kind of mimicking the regular season again? Week 7 and Week 8. Week 7, they played the Lions. They lost to the Lions. Guess who they played in Week 8 in L.A. on Thursday Night Football? I'm just saying, they played the Rams in L.A. It's the same thing happening. They could repeat itself. Who knows? History could repeat itself. Could the Rams upset the Vikings in the NFC playoffs this weekend? Who knows? We're going to figure it out because we're covering it. Final score 31-9. Lions bye, Rams. The Vikings 9. Vikings have the Rams this week. Lions are on bye. We're the number 1 seed. That was the Week 18 NFL regular season recap for us. Done with the regular season, and now we are ready to focus on the NFL playoffs. Road to New Orleans starts this weekend. The road to New Orleans, Louisiana, in the Superdome for Super Bowl 59 starts this weekend. We are covering the Super Bowl as well. So, ready to rock and roll until February 13th with the NFL season. Now, or February 9th, technically. But now, here we go. Let's talk about the playoffs in a little bit, but let's talk about the Pigskin Frenzy NFL injury report for this weekend and the coaching changes going on around the league before we talk about these games. So, the NFL injury report looks like this. Only 2 big injuries, so we're going to go through this quickly. Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts has a concussion. He is questionable Sunday versus the Packers. They play the Packers Sunday. So Eagles and Packers at home. Tanner McKee has been starting for this team. Jalen Hurts' injury is something to look out for, and this could change the whole complexion of this game Sunday. If Jalen Hurts is somehow unable to go, I imagine that he would play Sunday. He practiced yesterday. He's been practicing, so they're trying to test him out. But if he is good to go Sunday, I'm confident in the Eagles. But if Tanner McKee plays this game and starts Sunday and Jalen Hurts is out, I'm kind of worried. I'm kind of worried. We're going to see how it goes. I would be kind of worried if I'm the Eagles. I think this is a team where you don't test, right? Especially the Packers, if they're coming off of a loss against the Bears. I wouldn't test this Packers team. They're regardless of seeding, regardless of where you're playing at. The last time they played was in Brazil, and the Packers lost, but the Packers brought the Eagles. They brought it to them in Brazil. So let's see what happens. He's questionable. Thoughts and prayers are with Jalen Hurts. Hopefully he heals quickly and he's good to go. But this is what I want to keep an eye out for if you're an Eagles fan and if you're the Eagles coming up Sunday against the Packers. Last but not least, Ravens wide receiver Zay Flowers. He sprained his knee against the Browns in the last weekend of the regular season. He is considered day-to-day. It is considered a sprained knee. He is considered day-to-day, and he is looking to come back for the divisional round if they beat the Steelers. It is a long shot to play Saturday for Zay Flowers. So they are looking to be without him Saturday against the Steelers. They are confident that they can make it past the Steelers, and they are confident that they can make it to the divisional round, and he will play in that game. So let's see what happens. Losing Zay Flowers is a key part of your offense. So big news for the Ravens. Keep an eye on that one. He is considered day-to-day. Let's see what happens. He could play Saturday, but it's considered a long shot to play Saturday. So thoughts and prayers with Zay Flowers. Hopefully he heals quickly and everything goes good with him. And thoughts and prayers with everybody on this list. And hopefully everything is good for Saturday and Sunday. That was the Pigskin Frenzy NFL injury report. Now let's move on to the coaching changes and let's discuss some of the names on this list and discussing everything there. So before we move on to the playoffs, so coaching carousel is heating up, and Black Monday and Black Friday have happened for coaching, and let's get on with some news. Big cities and big teams are now in the market. So the Raiders have fired head coach Antonio Pierce. Right after last week, I said that they needed to move on from him. They have fired him. I think it's the right move. You're going to sit there and say, dude, you're wearing Raiders colors right now. I'm wearing like blackish gray and gray fleece right now. But, man, let me just go on and say something about Antonio Pierce. He's a good head coach. Good head coach. Just don't think he was the right fit in general. And you're going to say, dude, you're all about preaching for patience with coaches and patience with teams. I am. I want teams to be more patient. I think impatience is a huge issue with coaching in the NFL and in general. Here is why this has nothing to do with impatience. Because I don't think he was the right guy to begin with. I do not think he was the right guy to begin with for this Raiders organization. He wasn't my first choice last season. He was the interim head coach. He was not my choice at all to be the full-time head coach for this team. I didn't agree with the move. I think Antonio Pierce is a good guy. He's a tough coach, and he's a great coordinator. And a great assistant coach. But I think he needs to learn a little bit. I think he needs to grow a little bit before he is thrown into another head coaching job. He was thrown into that job, and he was not ready for it. I didn't think it was the right move. I need somebody else, and I think there's somebody better out there for the Raiders. That's my honest opinion on it. It has nothing to do with impatience. He just wasn't the right guy for the job to begin with. They got talent. They got Michael Mayer, Brock Bowers at the tight end position. They got Zamir White at running back. They got a lot of talent. They got Max Crosby on the defensive front. They got some talent. They got Jacoby Myers. They got some talent up there. With Mark Davis being the owner, Tom Brady being a minority owner for that team, he is going to have a lot of influence on who's going to be their next quarterback and who's going to be the head coach of that organization. And I would listen to Tom Brady because he's the greatest quarterback of all time, and he knows how to run business-wise and knows how to run a team and organization. Even though he was a quarterback for a team, he knows what to do, and his influence is going to be very positive for the Las Vegas Raiders organization. So, who are some of the names that you can look after? I said go after Mike Vrabel, and those are some names there. Ben Johnson, there's a lot of guys you can go after, but the Raiders have fired head coach Antonio Pierce, and we're going to see who the Raiders get and try to go after during this coaching cycle. Las Vegas is a big market, and it's a good market. So let's see what happens. Next up, the Patriots have fired head coach Gerard Mayo after one season. This one came as a shock. I think that it could have been a good move, but it could also be a bad move. Could this be an impatient move? I don't know. My thoughts are they really have somebody in mind for them to get Gerard Mayo out of there. Robert Kraft and the Kraft family didn't like where the direction was going for the future as well, so they got rid of Gerard Mayo. Would I have given Gerard Mayo maybe another chance? Probably. I think Gerard Mayo had a better situation than Antonio Pierce did at the Raiders, and the Raiders finished better technically because they finished better than the Patriots. They did, and they won their last bit of games. The Raiders did. Yes, but I think long-term, the Patriots have a better situation than the Raiders. Long-term. They got a solid quarterback in Drake May. They don't need a quarterback. They just need talent around Drake May. And I feel like they have a better situation there. So I think they were a little bit quick to jump the gun on that one. However, I'm not going to argue the move. I think if there's somebody better in mind as a head coach, then bring him in. That's how I view it. They have fired Gerard Mayo. It's a huge market, Boston market. A historic franchise, tied with the Steelers for the most Super Bowl wins in franchise history. Huge, rich prestige. A lot of people are going to be trying to have to gun for that job. It is a huge job and huge shoes to fill with Belichick and Mayo trying to fill those shoes. But now it's a little bit better to fill those shoes now that going into this situation, but it's a huge job. So let's see what happens there for the Patriots. And last but not least, for firings, the Jaguars have fired head coach Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson is gone. The Jaguars are looking for a new head coach. It just wasn't going in the direction that Jacksonville hoped. They've had him for 2 to 3 seasons. They had one playoff appearance, but then everything started going down after last season. They lost 7 straight games last season, and then they kept on losing this season. Trevor Lawrence hurt, a lot of guys hurt for this team, and Doug Peterson did not have this organization in his 3rd year on the right track. They were getting worse, and they're looking for a new head coach. The market's great. It's Jacksonville, Florida. There is talent. You have a quarterback, a franchise, could-be franchise quarterback with Trevor Lawrence. You have a talented receiver room with Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis. You had Travis Etienne at the running back spot. You have solid defensive players like Trayvon Walker on the defensive front. You have a lot of talented guys in that field. Josh Allen at the edge position. You have a lot of guys on that team that are talented. You just need the right coach. So who's going to be the right coach to go to Jacksonville? We don't know. But there's some names that you can throw out and try to request there. And I think that Jacksonville is a good market to do it. You also got other markets, out there as well. The Jaguars have fired head coach Doug Peterson. Those are the latest firings and the latest news of the coaching searches. But let's talk more about the coaching searches really quick in the cycle. The Giants are retaining Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen at GM. My honest thoughts, I've already tweeted that out. My honest thoughts was I think Brian Daboll should be the head coach of the New York Giants. I think they need to get rid of it. They need to find a new GM. I think Joe Schoen is the problem. I think they need a better GM who makes better decisions talent-wise, and I think they need to keep Brian Daboll That's my thoughts on the situation. You already know on that. But that's the latest news there. Nick Sorsen is out as 49ers defensive coordinator. Kyle Shanahan is making an offer to former Jets head coach Robert Saleh to be their defensive coordinator once again. Robert Saleh, then it was D'Amico Ryans, now it's Nick Sorsen, now it's back to Robert Saleh. And Robert Saleh could be the next defensive coordinator for the 49ers. Let's see what happens there. It's a great move because Robert Saleh knows how to coach that defense, and he is a solid defensive coordinator. So that would be a good hire for the Niners coming up if they can make him DC again. So let's see if they do that. Let's see if the Niners do that. Excuse me. Excuse me. So the Raiders, Patriots, Jaguars, Jets, Saints, and the Bears. Those are the markets. Those are the guys that want head coaching jobs. So you got the Jets, the Patriots, the Bears, the Raiders, the Saints, the Jaguars. I don't think I'm missing anything. I think those are the markets right now. A lot of names that can come to mind that are on this list and to watch out for. The markets are insane. This is probably one of the best coaching cycles for the NFL in quite some time based off of markets alone. If you look at the market in the landscape of coaching right now, who wouldn't want to coach at Las Vegas? The city names. Just think of the cities. The cities that are being named here. New York, New England, Boston, with a rich franchise of the Patriots. Las Vegas. You look at Las Vegas. You look at New Orleans, the Big Easy. You look at Chicago. You look at Jacksonville. You look at those type cities. The market is huge for those. And not only that, you may could add Dallas to the mix. Dallas, because if Mike McCarthy, who's in his final year of his contract, ends up going somewhere else or something happens there and they don't extend him, then Dallas could be on looking for a head coach. Who knows? Dallas denied Mike McCarthy the right to speak with Chicago. It's a huge market. Some names that you can watch out for the market in coaching right now are obviously number one, Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel's a name that's coming up on everybody's list. Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Lions. He is a young upstart offensive coordinator. He has done really, really well for Detroit, and that's a good name on the market right now. You got Aaron Glenn, who's made the Lions defense look amazing. Defensive coordinator for Aaron Glenn. Those three names are the obvious names for coaching searches right now. Here are some other coaching names that you probably aren't thinking about. Or maybe thinking about, but also not really thinking about. You got Matt Nagy, the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, who the Saints are reportedly interested in. You got Steve Spagnuolo from the Chiefs defensive coordinator, who didn't have a good coaching career at the St. Louis when they were in St. Louis 2009 to 2011, but has reinvented himself as a coordinator for the past 13 years. Darren Rizzi, the interim coach for the Saints. You got Cliff Kingsbury, the Washington Commanders offensive coordinator. You also have a wild card name that you can throw out there that I've been hearing that's surprising, and that's Matt Campbell from Iowa State. Matt Campbell from Iowa State is an interesting name being thrown out there. You got a lot of names being thrown out there for these coaching searches. Big markets, big-time names for these coaching searches. It's going to be highly entertaining to see what team is going to be changed, especially ahead of the draft and especially ahead of free agency and the 2025 NFL season. So it's going to be quite interesting to see these names being thrown out there. So that's the coaching cycle. That's the coaching names being thrown out there. That's the coaching changes and news being brought to you there. And we're going to see what happens, and we're going to keep up to date with everything on X. So follow me on X at Pigskin_Frenzy. And follow on my page for my thoughts on the coaching changes, and we'll talk about it on Pigskin Frenzy as well. So that's the coaching changes going on in the National Football League. Buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride. A lot of big-time jobs and markets out there for coaching and a lot of names going out there as well. Let's conclude this episode with the NFL wild card preview and predictions, the NFL playoff first round preview and predictions, all the games that we are covering. We're covering all 6 playoff games, 6 to 4 to 2 to 1. Here we go. All the playoffs are being covered here on Pigskin Frenzy. Let's kick it off with the AFC matchups, the 3 AFC matchups. Let's kick it off with Saturday. Saturday at, Saturday, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central on CBS. The Chargers at Texans. Chargers at Texans. CBS, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. A huge game in the AFC wild card. Chargers at Texans. Big time game there. Chargers are the 6th seed. They are 11-6. The Texans are the third. Chargers are the 5th seed. Chargers are the 5th seed. Texans are the 4th seed. Chargers are 11-6. Texans are 10-7. Something has to give in this ball game. Huge game coming up Saturday afternoon. Big time defense for both teams. It's going to be wild. It's going to be a big time. It's going to be packed out in NRG Stadium in Houston. Young quarterback in CJ Stroud looking to make it and looking to make it past the wild card round. Chargers are making a look at past the wild card round. Justin Herbert is looking to get his first ever playoff win. So let's see what happens, in this game. Number one key for the Chargers here. The Chargers' keys are simple. Number one, you got to force turnovers. If you can force CJ Stroud or Joe Mixon and everybody on offense to turn the ball over, if you can force turnovers in this ball game on Jesse Minter's defense, then the Chargers can find a way to win this ball game. I think their defense is stout. They're stingy. They have forced turnovers. If they can find a way for the Texans to turn the ball over, it would be a huge win for the Chargers Saturday afternoon. Number two, establish the running game. Currently, the Chargers are 17th in rushing offense in the league. That number went up because J.K. Dobbins came back from that knee injury. J.K. Dobbins is elite, and when you run it effectively with J.K. Dobbins, he is the answer for this rushing attack on offense for the Chargers. The Houston Texans are currently 11th in rushing defense in the league. Last week versus the Raiders, the Chargers had 137 yards rushing total against the Raiders. So, if they can do that and counting and running it up effectively on this Texans defense, then the Chargers can pull away with a win here in Houston. And number three, slow down their running game. Houston is currently 15th in rushing offense. The Chargers are currently 14th in rushing defense in the league. Joe Mixon is still a solid running back. And yards after carry, he can just yards after carry are just elite. He is elite when it comes to yards per rush, and he is elite when it comes to acceleration during an open lane. He is an elite running back, or one. I would say not elite running back. I would say up to an elite running back. He is great, and who could be an elite running back. Let's just put it that way. Joe Mixon is a solid back. Do not underestimate him and the Houston Texans rushing attack. Slow down their running game, and I think you should be fine in this game if you are the Chargers. That's the Chargers' keys. Let's go to the Texans' keys really quick. Number one, establish the running game. Like I said, if you can establish the running game with Joe Mixon, you should be fine in this ball game. Number two, you got to win the line of scrimmage battle. You got to be more physical than Jim Harbaugh's Chargers. You got to win the line of scrimmage battle. Block, protect CJ Stroud, find open run lanes, find open passing lanes as well. Hold those blocks down and win the line of scrimmage battle on both sides of the ball, and you should be fine if you're D'Amico Ryans and this Houston Texans team. And number three, force turnovers. If he can force Justin Herbert to turn the ball over, which he's not done a whole lot, so that's going to be a bit of a challenge for this Texans defense. I think if he can force turnovers, you should be fine in this ball game Saturday afternoon if you are the Texans. So the questions that I got for both teams, honestly, number one, for the Texans, can you run the ball on this defense? Can you run it with Joe Mixon and play, have an elite ground game coming up Saturday afternoon? That's number one. Number two, can you out-physical the Chargers? That is another question for me on that one. Number one for the Chargers, can you run the ball well with J.K. Dobbins? And can you run the ball and have a balanced attack, with Herbert and J.K. Dobbins? Number two, can you be or out-physical them? on the line of scrimmage. Those are the two things. And then the question for both teams is, can you force turnovers? Obviously, those are the keys and questions. Can you force turnovers? Whoever turns the ball over and forces those turnovers is most likely going to win this ball game. That's the way I see it. This is going to be a defensive battle. Who do I got winning this ball game Saturday afternoon? Like I said, defensive battle. I think it's going to come down to whose defense is the best and who can force those turnovers and who can run the ball well. I think that this game will be close. I think the Texans are going to fight. I think that the Chargers are going to find a way to win this game in Houston. I think that right now they are the better team. Excuse me. I think right now they are the better team. I think that they got this win. I think they're going to squeak by with a win. They get the win. I think it's going to be close, about 21-14. Chargers 21, Texans 14. Chargers defeat the Texans. They move on, and I think they move on and they play the Chiefs. That kind of tells you where I'm going with the next pick. Chargers win. They defeat the Texans. Chargers win 21-14. Chargers defeat the Texans, and they move on to the divisional round of the AFC Playoffs, and that wraps up the Texans season. Chargers get the win over the Texans. Moving on, Steelers at Ravens. Steelers at Ravens, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 7 o'clock Central on Amazon Prime Video. If you have a subscription, you better watch it. If you don't, you better get the Prime subscription, and you better tune in and watch this game. Steelers at Ravens. Steelers 10-7 at Ravens 12-5. They're 1-1 against each other. I mean, first game, Steelers won it without scoring a single touchdown. And then on December 21st, the Ravens defeat the Steelers and, get ahead in the AFC North race, eventually winning the AFC North. So, 1-1, who will win and get their third win on each other, who will complete the series and win the tiebreaker this season until next season, right? Steelers at Ravens. Something's got to give on Prime, 8 Eastern, 7 Central in this game. Steelers' keys are pretty simple in this ball game. Number one, obviously, you got to slow down their running game. Baltimore is currently first in the league in rushing offense, and Pittsburgh has kind of gone down in rushing defense. Currently 6th in rushing defense, but still a top 10 rushing defense, still pretty solid. They have the guys and the capabilities to slow a little bit of the Ravens' rushing attack down, and I think they can try to do it. Number one is slow down their rushing offense. You got to do that in order to win this ball game. Number two, you have to win on third down. Winning on third down is important. They were 4 for 12 on third down versus the Bengals. They did not do so hot on completing their drives and completing and capitalizing on their possessions on third down. Win on third down, 4 for 12 last week, and you can't do that against this Ravens team. If you do that there, it's not going to go well for you Saturday night. So you got to win on third down. And number three, you got to establish the running game. Pittsburgh is currently 11th in rushing offense. However, Baltimore is currently first in rushing defense in the league. So this doesn't bode well necessarily on paper for the Steelers. 74 rushing yards total versus the Bengals last Saturday. So all that doesn't bode well for the Steelers. But you got to find a way to balance your offense out with the pass by running the football with Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. If you can figure out a way to get those guys involved on the ground, then the Ravens could be in trouble. Could. But the Ravens have a solid rushing defense. So let's see what happens. Number one rushing defense and offense in the National Football League currently. So it's huge. It is vital. These keys are vital for the Steelers to win on Saturday. Here are the Ravens' keys. Establish the running game. That's number one. Just run the ball and run it effectively, and you should be fine. With Lamar Jackson, with Derrick Henry, with Justice Hill, Keaton Mitchell, all those guys, you should be fine on the ground if you are the Ravens. Number two, force turnovers. If you can force turnovers and force the Steelers to turn the ball over in this ball game and capitalize off those turnovers, you should be fine in this ball game. That's number two. Number three, win on third down. You did really, really good winning on third down in this game. 7 for 14 against the Browns on third down. That is huge. That was huge for the Ravens to clinch the AFC North Division title again. Win on third down. That's the third and final key for the Ravens in this one. The question that I got for the Ravens, can they run the ball effectively like they normally do on this Pittsburgh defense? That's number one. Number two, can they make the Steelers offense one-dimensional on defense? Those are the two questions that I got for the Ravens in this game. Number two questions that I got for the Steelers: can they run the ball on this Ravens defense, and can they have a balanced offense? And number two, can they win on third down? Because that's going to be important. Can they capitalize on those possessions and capitalize on their drives? That's huge. And can the receivers step up and make plays and help Russell Wilson out in the pass? Those are some huge questions for the Steelers, huge questions for the Ravens in this ball game Saturday night. Who do I got winning this ball game Saturday? I think this game will be close at half. However, in the second half, I think the Ravens are going to find a way to run away with it. I think the Steelers did not show me enough in this game this past Saturday and the past couple of games. It kind of worries me. And I think that this game will be a runaway game for the Ravens in the second half. I think the Ravens find a way to win this game. They don't really squeak by with a win. I think they run away with it late in the third, early in the fourth. Give me the Ravens to defeat the Steelers by a score of 31-21. Ravens 31, Steelers 21. The Ravens defeat the Steelers. The Ravens move on, and they go to the divisional round, and they move on to the AFC playoffs. The Steelers are eliminated, and the Steelers go back to Pittsburgh and get ready for next season. The Ravens defeat the Steelers, and the Ravens get a huge win in the AFC wild card this Saturday night. So, moving on. Last but not least in the AFC, Sunday, noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central on CBS, Broncos at Bills. Broncos at Bills. Broncos are 10-7. Bills are 13-4. Something's got to give here. It's going to be snowing. 30% chance of snow. Temperatures are at 29 degrees is the high for this game at kickoff. This game is going to be cold, but both teams are used to the cold weather, so it doesn't really matter at this point. Broncos at Bills in this ball game. So let's look at it, and let's look at the keys in this ball game. The Broncos are a tough team that you are not going to have to underestimate. The Bills are going to have to play this game. Point blank. It's not a runaway game. This will be a close game. The Broncos are going to give it their all in this game. Weather is not going to matter because the Broncos are used to this environment. Bills are not going to take anything lying down either. It's going to be a back and forth game. Broncos are there for a reason. Their defense is stingy, and this Bills offense is going to have to watch out for it. Broncos keys are simple. Number one, you got to get to Josh Allen. They are first in sacks in the league. You have to sack Josh Allen. You got to get to him. You got to pressure him. If you can do that, Denver's going to have a good day in the office if you can get to Josh Allen. That's the huge key there. Number one is get to Josh Allen. Number two, force turnovers. Josh Allen in this Bills offense has not turned the ball over as much. Josh Allen's had a pretty good season at not turning the ball over. If you can force turnovers against this Bills team, this could bring Broncos to life in Orchard Park, New York, Sunday afternoon. This could bring them to life. So, number two, force turnovers in this ball game. That's huge. That's number two. Number three, Bo Nix has to have a breakout game. I think he's got to play like he's been playing. He's got to play like a madman. If he can play like a madman and just play his heart out in this ball game, then the Broncos can find a way to upset them and win this ball game. Those are the three keys in this ball game for the Broncos. Number one for the Bills, key for the Bills, Josh Allen just got to keep playing the way he's playing. I know you're going to think these are some simple keys, but they are simple because it's the truth. Bo Nix has got to have a breakout game. Josh Allen's got to just keep playing the way he's playing. Play at the MVP caliber level he's been playing on. If he plays like that, then who's going to stop him? I mean, really, who's going to stop him? Josh Allen, if he goes off, then it may be a hard day at the office if you're the Denver Broncos. Just got to keep playing the way you're playing. Number two, force turnovers. If he can force Bo Nix to turn the ball over and force this team to give up the ball, then you should be fine in this ball game. And then number three, protect Josh Allen. You got to protect Josh Allen. Let Josh Allen play like he's been playing and protect him and not let them get to him. Not let them pressure him and not let them get sacks. Minimize those sacks. If you can do that and win the line of scrimmage battle by protecting Josh Allen, you should be fine in this ball game. Broncos questions are this. Can they sack Josh Allen? Can they contain him and limit him? And can they force those turnovers? Bills questions. Can they protect Josh Allen from that stingy Broncos defensive line? Can they force those turnovers? And can they limit and kind of contain Bo Nix from playing the way he's been playing? And also, can Josh Allen keep up his play? Those are the questions that I got for both teams in this ball game. Who do I got winning this ball game? I think this game is going to be close. I think Broncos are going to give it all they got. They're going to get a couple of sacks on Josh Allen. It's hard to not, because this Broncos defensive line is stingy. However, it's not going to slow down Josh Allen. I think the Bills are going to find a way to win a close one, and the Broncos will go home and be a one and done, unfortunately. The Bills win it. I think the Bills win it 28-21. Bills 28, Broncos 21. The Bills defeat the Broncos. The Bills head to the divisional round and play the Baltimore Ravens, and then the Chargers play the Chiefs in the divisional round. So the Bills play the Ravens in the divisional round. The Broncos get eliminated and go home. Bills defeat Broncos. Bills 28, Broncos 21, and the Bills move on to the divisional round after this game. The Broncos head home after a good season. Those are the AFC matchups and my preview and predictions for the AFC matchups. Let's go to the NFC matchups, and then we will conclude our episode. Packers at Eagles. NFC matchups. Packers at Eagles. Packers are 11-6. Eagles are 14-3. The Eagles defeated the Packers week 1 in Brazil, and it all starts coming back to you now, doesn't it? Whitney Houston. It's all coming back to me now, or however that song goes. Packers at Eagles. We're back to where we started. Packers at Eagles in Lincoln Financial Field. Something's got to give here. The Packers are looking to bounce back after a huge loss from the regular season loss to the Bears. The Eagles are just hoping that Jalen Hurts can play Saturday or Sunday afternoon due to that concussion. It is a 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central game on Fox. Packers at Eagles Sunday afternoon. The Packers' keys are simple. Number one, you got to slow down their running game. Green Bay is currently 7th in rushing defense in this league. The Eagles, obviously with Saquon Barkley behind them, is 2nd in rushing offense in the National Football League. They have the best running back in the NFL this season in Saquon Barkley. The Packers do know how to slow down the run, though. They are a top 10 rushing defense. So if they can figure out a way to limit them, not totally slow him down, but limit him to an extent, maybe this will breathe some life into the Packers, and this will help them find a way to pull off an upset in Philadelphia. Number 2, win on 3rd down. You have to win on 3rd down because you were 3 for 10 on 3rd down versus the Bears. Don't say that we rested our starters. No, because Jordan Love was in there. So you got to win on 3rd down. You got to capitalize on your possessions, and you got to do better in this ball game. It's important and vital to win on 3rd down and keep those possessions going if you're the Packers in this ball game. Number 3, protect the football. 2 turnovers versus the Bears. You had 2 fumbles in this game. You can't afford that against a defense like the Philadelphia Eagles, especially in Philadelphia. You got to do better, and you have to protect the football in this game. It is important if you're the Packers. Those are the keys for the Packers. Let's go to the Eagles' keys. Number 1, slow down their running game. Philadelphia is currently 10th in rushing defense in the league, which is pretty good. Green Bay, with Josh Jacobs, is 5th in rushing offense in the league. They're a top 5 rushing team. They're a top 5 rushing team. I think that with Josh Jacobs is an absolute animal. He can get you yards on the ground. If you can find a way to slow Josh Jacobs down, you should get a huge win if you are the Eagles. So that's it. Slow down their running game. Number 2, start off fast. This key is depending on if Jalen Hurts plays. And I think these keys I think 2 and 3 keys for the Eagles are depending on if Jalen Hurts plays. If Jalen Hurts plays and you're not starting Pickett or McKee, start off fast. Start off fast. Get your foot up, floor the gas pedal, and put that Packers defense on its heels. If you can do that, you should be fine. Or let Saquon Barkley start off fast for you. That's number 2. Number 3, win on third down. 3 for 14 on third down versus the Giants. If Tanner McKee does start, or if Pickett does start and Hurts is out, this is important. You have to capitalize on your drives against this Packers defense. Packers are there for a reason. They're still a dangerous playoff team, and I think that if you can do that at home and capitalize on your drives on third down by winning on third down, you have a shot at winning this ball game. The questions that I got for both teams: 1, can you slow it for the Packers? Slow down Saquon Barkley. Can you limit him? Can you limit their rushing attack? Can you win on third down? And can you establish the run game on a good top 10 Eagles defense? That's the Packers questions that I got for this game. My questions that I got are, can you slow down Josh Jacobs if you're the Eagles, obviously? And a big one here is Jalen Hurts going to play? I think if Jalen Hurts plays, it's gonna depend. It's going to really change a lot of people's picks if they don't play, if he doesn't play, and it's gonna change the dynamic of this game if he does play. I think if he plays, it's gonna be a big boost for the Eagles. And what's gonna happen if he doesn't play? Those are my questions for the Eagles. What's gonna happen if he does not play? Those are only questions that we know until now or until kickoff. So, who do I got winning this ball game? I think this game is going to be close. I'm thinking the Packers are going to give it all they got defensively and on the ground. Josh Jacobs is going to get his. I think the injury a little bit to Jordan Love that I've been hearing about his throwing arm is a little bit of concern. I think it will be not that big of a factor. I think I'm going to make it close. I'm going to go with the Eagles to win this game because I think that Jalen Hurts is going to play. I think I'm going to go with the notion that he does figure out a way to play. And I think that if he does play, they're going to lean more towards a ground attack with not just with him, but with Saquon Barkley. I think that the Eagles are going to find a way to win with Saquon Barkley because he's a game changer. And they figure out a way to win this ball game. The Eagles win. I think they win 28-21. Another 28-21 score. Eagles 28, Packers 21. The Eagles win, and they defeat the Packers. The Eagles move on to the NFC divisional round. The Packers get eliminated and go back to Green Bay, and they are out of this game. The Eagles win 28-21, and the Eagles move on to the NFC divisional round. 2 more games. Sunday night football. Sunday night football, 8 Eastern, 7 Central on NBC. Sunday night football for the NFC playoffs. Commanders at Buccaneers. These next 2 games that I'm doing are tricky because I was going back and forth, but I've got it lodged in my head. Commanders at Buccaneers. Commanders are 12-5, making it to the playoffs again for the first time since 2020. Since the COVID year, and the Buccaneers are back in it after being in the divisional round, and they have a shot at making a deep playoff run if they want to. The NFC South champions and the the 6th-seeded Commanders at large spot. So Commanders at Buccaneers, something's got to give here on both. Jaden Daniels, his first ever playoff appearance as a rookie, leading them to the playoffs. Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans, that duo has been insane on offense. Can they make some noise at home in this game? The Commanders' keys are simple. Number 1, Jaden Daniels has to have a breakout game. Jaden Daniels has got to have a breakout game in this game. He's got to run wild. He's got to pass really, really good, make good decisions, and he's got to go off in this game. I think if he has a breakout game, the Commanders will find a way to win this ball game outright. I do believe that. Number 2, you got to win on third down. 6 for 13 on third down versus the Cowboys. Washington is 6th in third down conversion rate percentage. They are 6th in the National Football League in third down conversions. And I think if they convert and capitalize on their drives, the Commanders are in prime position to pull off a win on the road against Tampa Bay. And then number 3 for the Commanders, you force turnovers. I think if you figure out a way to get Baker Mayfield to turn the ball over, which he has done, he has had games where he's thrown 2 to 3 picks in the game. I think that you find a way. You can find a way to get it done in this one. I really do. I think you can find a way to get it done in this one. Those are the Commanders' keys. And those are the Commanders' keys. Let's go with the Buccaneers' keys. Number one for the Bucs, you got to win on third down. I think if you win on third down, obviously you should have a good shot at winning this game. 10 for 16 on third down versus the Saints, so not bad. Tampa Bay is first in third down conversion percentage. They're first in converting on third down. They are the best at converting on third down and capitalizing and moving the ball down the field on drives and keeping drives going and tiring people out. So win on third down if you're the Buccaneers. Number two, you got to minimize those penalties. 12 penalties for 90 yards versus the Saints. You can't do that against this Commanders team. This is a tough team you're playing against. This is not the same team you played against in week one where you did defeat them. You got to minimize those penalties because this will kill you in the game. So minimize the penalties. Number three, protect the football. One turnover versus the Saints. So you only had one turnover. I understand that. But Baker Mayfield has had a tendency to throw a lot of picks and fumble the ball. And this team has had some ball security issues. So protect the football. If he can protect the football in this game, you have a shot at winning this game. Here are my questions for both teams. Number one, for the Commanders, can they win on third down? Number one, can they win on third down and keep drives going and capitalize on drives? Can Jaden Daniels have the game of his life in this game? Can he just play like a madman in this game and how he's been playing in this game? That's number one. That's number two. The two questions and forced turnovers if you're the Commanders. The three questions that I got really for the Buccaneers are, can you win on third down? I mean, if you can convert on third down, you're good. I mean, right? Best in third downs, right? Can you not inflict the self wounds, minimize the penalties, and can you protect the football and get Mike Evans going into this game? Because Mike Evans is what he did. 11th straight 1,000-yard receiving season. Unbelievable. Ty Jerry Rice for that. He's unbelievable. Can you get Mike Evans going? Can you get it going and limit those mistakes? Those are the questions that I got for the Bucs, and those are the questions that I had for the Commanders. Who do I got winning this ball game Sunday night? This game's going to be close. I think the Commanders are going to hang on, and they are going to compete at the highest level. Jaden Daniels is going to do Jaden Daniels things. He's been playing lights out for this Commanders team. However, I think that the defense is going to be physical for the Buccaneers. I think this line of scrimmage is going to be physical for the Buccaneers on both sides of the ball. I think Baker Mayfield's been playing lights out, and they have been playing really, really good. I think they're going to find a way to squeak by with a win, and the Buccaneers win it at home Saturday in the first round. Give me the Bucs winning. I think it's going to be a score of 24-17. Buccaneers 24, Commanders 17. The Buccaneers move on to the divisional round, and they make it in there, and the Commanders get eliminated early with the promise of getting in next year and potentially making it farther if they keep building. Buccaneers 24, Commanders 17. The Buccaneers move on and go to the divisional round, and the Commanders are out this weekend. Last but not least, Monday Night Football, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. 8 Eastern, 7 Central kick. Vikings at Rams on Monday Night Football. NFC wild card matchup, playoff matchup on Monday Night Football on ESPN. Vikings at Rams. 14-3 Vikings, Rams at 10-7. The Vikings are going to try to bounce back from playing the Lions. Last time they did that, they played the Rams. And they lost, and could history repeat itself? I don't know. I really don't know. But I'm curious to see what happens in this ball game. So the questions are, we'll get to the questions in a minute. My bad. The Rams coming off of a loss against the Seahawks. Can they block out the noise that the Rams are going to lose and they're going to fumble in the first round? Can they block out the noise and get the job done at hand? Home field advantage. Is it going to be played in Los Angeles or is it going to be played in Arizona? Right now, the game is going to be played in Los Angeles and SoFi Stadium, but the backup plan and the emergency plan is to move it to Glendale, Arizona in State Farm Stadium. The Rams were there a couple of weeks ago. Will it happen? Who knows? But the game will be played on Monday night regardless, is what the NFL is saying. The Vikings' keys are pretty simple. Number one, you got to win on third down against this team. 3 for 13 on third down versus the Lions. If you can do that and convert on your possessions and keep your possessions and drives going and capitalize on them, you should be fine in this one. Number 2, slow down their running game. Minnesota's currently got the second best rushing defense in the league. Second in rushing defense. Los Angeles Rams are currently 24th in rushing offense in the league. Slow down their running game. If you can figure out a way to slow that down, slow down Kyren Williams, you should be fine in this ball game if you are the Vikings. And number 3, last but not least, make better decisions. You got to make better decisions. You have to. If you do not, like, for example, what you did at the goal line, go for the points. If the points present itself, go for the points. Do not go for it and come away empty-handed. Go for the points. Be a tad bit more conservative. Now, when there's a time that it calls to be aggressive, but you got to be conservative in some areas. Do not be overly aggressive and make better decisions. That is the third key for the Vikings in this ball game. The Rams' keys are simple too. Number 1, if you can't run the ball well and you are still in this ball game, beat them through the air. Los Angeles is currently 10th in passing offense in the National Football League. Minnesota currently is 28th in passing defense in the league. Matthew Stafford can air it out. He has proven that he can air it out. This offensive line can block if they can block well for him. He's got 2 great receivers in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp that can get open. He's also got other weapons in Kyren Williams as a receiving back, and Tyler Higbee, Demarcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell. He's got some underrated players and 2-star receivers. If he can do that, beat them through the air, then the Rams can find a way to win this ball game. If they cannot run the ball well and they are still in this game. Number 2, win the line of scrimmage battle. If you can out-physical them up front on both sides of the ball, you should be fine in this ball game. I think that's a huge key here, and that is a key that you need to get everything going. Win the line of scrimmage battle in this game on Monday night. And number 3, protect Matthew Stafford. The Rams allowed 3 sacks on Jimmy G versus the Seahawks. You cannot do that with Matthew Stafford against this Vikings team. This Vikings defensive line is solid, and they're stout. You have to protect Matthew Stafford in this game. That is the third key for this Rams team. The questions that I got for this game are, number 1, can the Rams run the football? Can they run the ball effectively, and can they balance it out through the pass? That's the number 1 question that I got. I think also, can they protect Matthew Stafford? And can they win the line of scrimmage battle? Those are the 3 questions that I got for this Rams team. Because I think if they have those keys, they can win this ball game. That's pretty good if you can do that. Number 1 for the Vikings. Can you slow down their running game? Number 2, can you win on third down? Those are some 2 big important keys. I believe that they can slow down their running game. But can you capitalize and have a good advantage on third down and keep drives going? You have to win on third down in this game. It's important in this playoff game Monday night. You have to win on third down. And number 3, can you make better decisions when going for it and not being too overly aggressive? That is huge. It is a coaching matter. Kevin O'Connell has to do that. That's huge in this ball game. Can they do that? Those are the questions that I got for both teams. Who do I got winning this ball game? I think this game's going to be close. I think this game's going to come down to the wire. I think the Vikings are going to probably slow down their running game. I think that the Vikings are physical, and they have what it takes up front to make this game physical and keep this game close. However, I think the Rams are overlooked. I think that the Rams are battle-tested. I think the Rams have an elite passing offense and top 10 passing offense in the NFL. I think they're still going to be in it. I think they're going to beat them through the air, and that Matthew Stafford and the Rams are going to find a way to win this ball game Monday night. You can almost hear a pin drop here in the war room at Pigskin Frenzy. I am picking the history of repeating itself. I think the Rams are going to find a way to beat the Vikings again in LA or in Arizona. I think the Rams are going to win it, and they're going to win the game outright. The Rams win 27-20. Rams 27, Vikings 20. The Vikings are out. They get eliminated, and the Rams are in it, and the Rams move on to the divisional round, and they move on to play the Eagles. So the Rams move on to play the Eagles in the divisional round, and the Vikings go home, and they are eliminated after losing an upset to the Rams. The Rams win it and move on to the divisional round. That is the only bold statement I will make in this NFC NFL wildcard playoff round. That just about does it for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some NFL coverage presented by me. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, all you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X, Instagram, and Facebook, just type in Pigskin Frenzy. Follow, like the pages there. You're going to get episode updates. You're going to get news and highlights from across college and NFL football. Trivia questions on Instagram stories. Go and answer today's NFL question as well as all things with the date for Pigskin Frenzy. Not Facebook, only X and Instagram at Pigskin_Frenzy. I'll give you my thoughts on everything on X and Instagram. Go and follow on those platforms there. The website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. All things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy coming soon. Guys, big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some NFL coverage presented by me. Enjoy this weekend of football. We got playoff football tonight on ESPN, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, the Orange Bowl. The college football playoff semifinal Orange Bowl, Notre Dame versus Penn State on ESPN. And then we will have tomorrow night on Friday, the Cotton Bowl, college football playoff Cotton Bowl, Ohio State versus Texas. Tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central on ESPN. College football playoff tonight, Friday, and then the NFL playoffs Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Enjoy this weekend slate that starts tonight of college football playoff and NFL playoff football. Postseason football is in the air. Guys, enjoy it. We will be back Tuesday to recap the college football playoff semifinal games and to preview and predict the college football playoff national championship game on Tuesday. And until Tuesday's college football edition of Pigskin Frenzy, I'm Joel Norris signing off. We will see you then and on Tuesday. Enjoy this weekend slate of playoff games for both college and NFL. We love you all. We are praying for you all. We are with the people in Los Angeles going through the wildfires right now. We stand with them. We are praying for them, and we are thinking about them and their families. This episode is dedicated to them. I'm Joel Norris signing off. We're praying for everybody. We love everybody. As always, stay the course. God bless you all. And again, stay the course.